Experiencing chronic illness or acquired disabilities can shift or disrupt the way that we connect with ourselves. Reconnecting with ourselves during illness can be a powerful and important step towards understanding yourself, accepting yourself, and caring for yourself. So, how can we slow down, listen, and respond with compassion rather than with resistance? Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome or welcome back to Unwinding Minds. If you're new here, hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Rosie. I'm a chronically ill counsellor based in the UK who specialises in supporting disabled, neurodiverse and chronically ill people with their mental health. I also make these videos as a supplement to offering counselling services to support everyone, including those who cannot access counselling with a professional like myself. It is important to state that these videos are not, however, a substitute for counselling. This is part 3 in our series on connection. In the last few episodes, we spoke about the importance of connection with others. We then looked into how to make friends and what that means in the context of an illness or disability which prevents you from being able to leave your home or leaving your home regularly. We covered actions that you can take to have increased feelings of connection with others. And to all of the above, we must add something more intangible and yet substantial, a connection with yourself. So that's what we're covering in today's episode. Illness changes you. The strange thing about it, the part that I didn't expect at the outset of my illnesses, is how it keeps changing you. I don't know whether it was the matter-of-factness with which my doctors told me about my chronic illnesses, or perhaps my own ignorance of what it would mean to be ill for the rest of my life. But when I was diagnosed, I felt in some way that I had reached the end of the process. I had, in a sense. I was out of the I don't know what's happening with my body phase, but I didn't see that there were stages beyond that. I knew I would have to accept it, and so I did, straight away. But the depth that comes with accepting a life-changing illness or event can never be instant or complete. It can't be because you don't know how it will affect the different areas of your life yet. You can't necessarily pull on previous experiences, and you'll be faced with new challenges that you couldn't possibly have seen coming at the outset. There's a reason that I'm talking about this in the context of connection. The first person you lose in an illness is yourself. I didn't know then what I know now, that the person I was before was effectively gone. Not completely, not physically, not spiritually, maybe a little mentally, but in terms of what I could do. And this was meaningful in terms of how I connected with myself. I had prided myself in the things that I could do for others, but also for myself. I was hyper-independent, and I loved that. That's important. When your identity surrounds what you can do, even if you don't realise it, you can put your worth into that. I had value because of what I could give, and that was something that I didn't even fully realise until I became limited. At first, there was an initial wave of grief, and I naively sort of thought that was it. I thought it would feel bad, and I would accept it and move forward, just like I did with countless other things in my life. Incorrect, minus 10 points, because the grief comes in waves, and it still comes. That's sort of grief's MO, isn't it? You get new limitations with an illness, and part of living well with illness is figuring out where those limits are. And that usually means hitting your head a few times before you get a feel of where the ceiling is for your personal limitations. And that's made even more complicated when your abilities can fluctuate day to day, which for me and many others it does. I think that parts of the process were made harder for me by neurodivergence. I used to crash through ceilings routinely because that's what I thought I should do. I was expected, as many others are, to hide sensory overwhelm or other aspects of neurodivergence, so I ignored it when I could, and I would privately implode later, melt down. I went through training and qualifications and jobs without asking for help because I genuinely didn't know what help I needed, and needing help seemed to be irrelevant to me anyway. Now, bear that attitude of expecting yourself to do things that push you beyond your limits and add in a physically limiting illness or disability. You're darn right I struggle to adjust. And most neurodivergent clients I've worked with are similar in this regard, firing on all cylinders and not even realising that the engine is overheating. You don't leave a car in fifth gear with the pedal to the floor for days and not expect the car to overheat. This is ableist thinking, and I never clocked it in my own life until I had no choice but to confront it. This might feel like waffle, perhaps it is, but what am I illustrating here? Change is inevitable. You can run from it, try and hide from it, try and pretend it's not happening, you can fight it, or you can accept it. And whatever you do, change will still come. And when it does, you have to find the way that you are going to respond. I said before that the person I was effectively gone, and I was the first person I lost with my illness. But what I mean by that is that the tidal wave of change in my physical circumstances meant both a practical and psychological shift, which changed that person, so that they gradually shifted into a new version, filled with aspects of the old and the new. Your identity informs a lot of things, but the aspect I want to focus on today is connection with self. It's pretty hard to connect with yourself when you're clutching the toilet basin and emptying your stomach, and it's pretty hard to connect with yourself when you're so nauseous that you're unable to focus on any distractions you might be providing yourself. You might not want to connect with yourself when those things are happening. You might be incredibly frustrated with your body, and by extension, yourself. You might be finding your experience so alien or uncomfortable that connecting with yourself is the last thing on your mind. Connecting to yourself is going to get hard at different moments in your life, and that's okay. You're not broken if you're frustrated, or if you're experiencing painful or alien feelings, or if you're struggling to recognize yourself in the midst of what you've become. It would be very strange if none of those feelings arose in your circumstances. Would you expect a friend or loved one not to have negative responses that you're having to those things? Probably not. You might be holding yourself to an impossible standard, as many of us do from time to time. Metamorphosis involves a caterpillar liquefying its organs and tissues in the cocoon. It's a complete breakdown of what it was into what it will become, a butterfly or a moth. Change is really messy, and if that experience I just talked about resonates with you, I invite you to pause and sit with it. Sit with the fact that you've been hurt by your illness, badly hurt. Your insides are liquid. Let the grief of the experiences you've lost come, and then when you feel ready, let the love come to meet it. You deserve to love yourself, even when you're goo in a cocoon. Loving yourself will help you when you start to pull that goo together into the next form. It will let you fly with grace, and with enough love, you'll feel less like you're deficient for having fallen apart, because really, we fall apart so that we come back together. Connecting with your new self, learning to love and accept your new limits is not binary. It will fluctuate and evolve. Some days you'll really struggle, but that doesn't mean you'll always be unable or struggling to do it. Just as importantly, when you go to connect with others, you are probably going to struggle a lot if you haven't taken the time to connect with yourself, because who you are now is different than who you were yesterday, and today will have brand new choices or challenges. Do you really want to be the kind of friend you were before? Did you love yourself enough then? Did you listen to your inner voice when it asked you to slow down or speed up? Did you prioritize yourself enough? Do you feel confident now to say when you don't feel well enough to do something? Maybe, or maybe now you have the chance to change some of the answers to those questions. What I've said so far might feel a bit woolly or gooey or impractical to some of you. Connecting with your feelings might be challenging, and it may not be exactly what you were seeking out when you came to this video. Perhaps you were looking for more practical tips on how to do that. So I'll cover a few now, but I do want to emphasize that connection with how you're feeling, it is really important as a part of processing any changes that you might be going through in terms of an acquired disability or illness. But I digress. Let's look at practical things that you could do to connect with yourself in a way that's nourishing. A big one is just taking some time solo with your thoughts and listening to the tone of them. Just sit and listen to the tone of them. It can be helpful to think about this in the context of, okay, here I am. Are my thoughts kind towards myself? Are they aggressive? Are they warm, cold? Would I talk to a friend in this way if they were experiencing the things that I was experiencing? And you don't have to change anything initially when you do that, but to notice is the most important component of that exercise. Has it changed? Has it changed since you became disabled or chronically ill? Have you always viewed yourself this way? Sometimes disability does change the way that we feel about ourselves. And it's okay. It's okay if that's happened. Because the core of your identity may have been based on things, like I said, like what you can do for other people, right? It's okay to notice that the changes have affected the way that you feel about yourself. And as I said before, it's an opportunity to figure out where you get good feelings from now. So in terms of connecting with yourself in a practical sense, it starts with, how am I being towards me in this scenario? If the answer is perhaps leaning more towards being unkind, may I suggest some counselling or some therapy? Not because there's something wrong with you, right? But because it's hard to live in that existence for any period of time. It may be helpful to discuss how you're feeling about yourself with somebody who's not biased, right? In the way that friends or family sometimes can be. Obviously I'm a counsellor, so you could reach out and message me and see if I've got space. But equally, I appreciate that for some people counselling's not accessible. So if you start to notice that there's lots of negative self-feeling, what do you want to do about that becomes the next question. That might be counselling, it might be working on it solo. So it's worth considering your different options. If you are noticing that you're being more aggressive towards yourself, what would it even look like to be kinder towards yourself? It's very hard to work towards something when we haven't got a clear picture of where we're going. What does somebody who is chronically ill or disabled being kind to themselves look like? That might be a good place to start in terms of reconnecting with who you are now that you're ill. Figuring out what you might want to change, what you might want to maintain. It's a complex process, and I do think it's worth pointing out that it's a lengthy one. It's not likely to take place within the first, month, 2 months, maybe not even the first year or the first few years. It's not exactly a process that we can time either, which I appreciate can be really frustrating. Some people would like very clear answers about how long that part of the process takes. It just doesn't work that way because different people work through things at their own pace. But I digress. Noticing what it is that you're experiencing now, even if it's different from what you experienced before, is an important component of reconnecting with yourself also. If you notice that you're struggling to do activities more than you used to, let's say, going and preparing lunch, very simple thing, which most of us take for granted as being simple, even though it may not be when you've acquired an illness or disability. If you notice what your new experience is, that's going to be an important first step towards accepting what you're going through. It doesn't make it any easier, but it's important to notice what you're going through and not push that experience or resist it. Realistically, there'll be parts of this process that most of us do resist, because we're used to one thing and then it changing can be a very, very strange or uncomfortable feeling. As I said before, it can impact on your sense of identity and who you feel you are. But with all of that said, hopefully that gives you some practical insights into how to reconnect with yourself. Sit, take time with yourself, do things that perhaps you used to enjoy, or figure out new ways of doing those things that you used to enjoy. It's something that we covered very briefly in the previous video, so I won't harp on about that. If you are struggling with connection, I do recommend going through the entire series. There's 3 videos on connection on this channel, covering, as I said at the start, connection with others, connection with yourself, etc. So go and have a watch of them, because if it hasn't been covered in this video, there's a serious possibility that it has been covered in another video. If you are still here, I'd like to express my gratitude. Your time is a valuable thing, so I appreciate that you spent it with me today. I hope that this video has helped you, and if it did, feel free to share it with someone who might be struggling to connect with others or with themselves too. You can also subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss the next video. And do let me know in the comments, because I'm always really curious to hear about your experiences. How has connecting with yourself changed since you became ill or disabled? We make a lot of videos on this channel about mental health, disability, chronic illness, and neurodivergence, and we do upload pretty regularly. Thank you so much for watching, and do take really good care.